been a long time since we've been here.
It has been a long time.
How long?
You were here right before Christmas.
Oh, it's
so
been a
we're
year?
excited. It's been a year.
Holy cow.
It's time to rotate. It's time to rotate our food storage.
There's Lisa B. That's her daughter C, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Nutnfancy.
Hey.
And we're going to talk about how to seal foods, the best containers to use. Take it away, Lisa.
A lot of people are really intimidated. They have great intentions of buying food storage and having it in their basement or in wherever their storage area is. And then it sits there because they are intimidated by the fact of actually opening that can. We know that there's utilization time that is best. Most of the fruits and vegetables, once you open that can, you have about a year to be able to use it. The moisture of a freeze-dried product, moisture is what we don't want. And air in there, the things that damage it. So a lot of people don't open those cans. We wanted to show you one way that you can store that, whether you're making the meals in the jar, we'll talk about that later. But if we're storing, this is a great way to utilize. We know that the cost value of a number 10 can is greater than buying it in smaller amounts. So if we're going to open this, I'm going to have C help me, and she's going to show us. So this is our freeze-dried beef. It's phenomenal. But once you open this can, it has a storage life of about 25 years.
Unopened, in the can, sealed.
Sitting there until you open it. Once I open that meat, it can sit on my counter right here for about 24 hours. And then it needs to be used. This is real meat.
What?
This
24 hours?
24 hours.
Even though it's freeze-dried?
Yes.
No moisture?
Because water and the moisture in the air, everything else, and air itself can start to break that down. Just like you can't leave your meat from the grocery store on your counter and expect to use it without it spoiling. The same, because this is real meat. This isn't TVP, this isn't some of the others. If you want that, that's a greater option to go with, but we want the real meat.
Okay.
So what I've got here is once I open that 24 hours on my counter. If I put it in my fridge, I have about a month before it needs to be used. If I put it in my freezer, about 4 to 6 months, depending on how you store it. But we're going to show you that if I open this and I reseal it into a jar, I've shaved about 6 months off my storage time. So now I have about 25 and a half years to decide how to use it.
Nice.
So whether I'm putting this into a meal, into anything else, this is a great way to break that down so that I can use it, but I'm not committed. I'm all about non-commitment on some things. So this is what we would do. It needs to be a fairly dry day. If it's rainy or if it's something else, you might want to wait till another day. But we're just going to open this. You can hear that air coming out.
Seal purging.
Yes. So we've got that. So if I were making meals, that would be great. If I'm not, this is just a great way to break it down. Or if I just want to make 1 or 2 meals as a gift, it's Christmas time, you might want to make a few gifts, but you don't necessarily want to do... That's a good seal. Okay, so we're done.
And by the way, as a reminder to TMPers, if you didn't see the other videos, you can. We did, again, the store visit with Lisa last year. We talked about a lot of these issues.
We did.
On camera, storage, different containers. We're going to hit some of that now.
Okay.
But this is the most cost-effective way to do the meals that we're going to teach you in separate videos.
Exactly. So
but you don't want this to go to waste.
Isn't that
That's
great?
What she's talking
That's
about.
valuable. That's diced beef. That's a nice cut of beef. Look at that. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to have C help me, what you need is just your storage video. And you need to decide, do you want more of a quart? Do you want the pints? How would you utilize that? If you were opening the whole can and just wanting to restore it so you could get in and out of it, you could go with the half gallon. Really not practical, but it is an option.
Right.
Then what I use is the food saver. If you have a regular wide, the kind that goes across your counter, it just needs the tubing. These are the most important things. This is a wide mouth universal lid and a regular mouth. You can see this one goes on this one goes on this.
Bottle adapters.
Right.
Okay.
And so mine
will
sits
suck the
like
air
this
out.
on my counter. My toaster's here. Let me invite you into my home. My toaster's here. Here's my food saver.
Right next to your Glock.
Right next. Well, that's in the drawer. So, so if I've got this, I store lettuce this way. I can put lettuce into jars, seal it, put it in the fridge. Obviously, that's not. But this can increase your storage time on so many items, and we're going to utilize that on our meat today. So what I need to do, I just use this. Okay, so we've got that going. Okay, so she's going to take her scoop. She's going to just take the meat and put it in. Go ahead. So this is something you can do as a family project, whatever you're wanting to do.
And this is a skill set being passed on.
Exactly.
To see.
Exactly.
You are parenting some important stuff here.
Okay, so we've got
This is
that
how kids
set.
learn.
So if we've got that, and if I have my bottles all lined up, we could be doing them all at one time. We'll
Right.
just seal that back up for a minute. Now, some people use an oxygen absorber. Oxygen absorbers are great. The one drawback is an oxygen...
There's one in here, so
There
you can
is.
see it.
An oxygen absorber can take up to 24 hours to seal. We've had people tell us they've sealed up a whole bunch of them. They left, they had a medical emergency, they came back, they had done 9 or 12 jars, 9 did not seal. We just need to be careful. Make sure the rubber is good on your lid. If you're using old lids, this is one of my favorite things. If the rubber is brand new, it will not seal as well. So either put it through your dishwasher, wash it, put it in your hot water for a little bit, like you're getting ready to can. You want to make sure that this is workable on that.
Okay, so tell the folks real quick to know that it seals. It means you'd put that oxygen absorber on here, put this lid on here, and then when you come back, it's tight. It's drawn to the jar, and you can't...
Right now you can hear that. That means it is not sealed.
Okay,
But if we're going to seal, so this just fits right over the top, not with the ring. We just want that straight on. And it just goes, hold on one second. It just goes circle to circle right here. I'm going to hold it on. What I tell people is to listen for the octave change. You'll hear it start to seal, and as it's pulling the air out and it's sealing it, it will go from a B up to a C.
Okay.
Hear that coming?
Yeah.
And then when it's done, it turns itself off. We have our seal.
There you go. That's when you know it's sealed. Like you said, no, there's an indentation there, and it's tight on the jar.
It's tight.
You don't
I can't
even
lift
need
this
the
off.
retention cap, really.
Exactly. In fact, in homemaking, they say, in your canning, they say to not put the rings on so that if it pops off, you know it. Because it could do a false seal. If I put the ring on, it could unseal, but then if there's moisture and different things, it could do a seal.
Okay.
So usually, if you can see with this, we usually don't keep a seal on there so that it has that capability that if we can see, we can go around. This one has a false seal because it has the lid on it. A lot of times here, people come in and they'll do it.
You taught me this. I never knew about canning, about that you could just tap and see that seal.
But you
It
can
makes
see-
total sense.
This has had a false seal, so it started to seal. A lot of times because this has fine filament items in there,
Yeah, so there's particulates on the rubber ring. It's not getting an airtight
keeping it from
seal.
sealing.
Right.
Yep. So you can either put some paper towels and things, but you can see the difference of these. This has, it doesn't come off. Oh, it does now. But it didn't seal. This
Yeah.
one is sealed. So we've got that in there, and it's now sealed. And then we'll just put this back, and we can do that.
What do you use at the house, Lisa? Do you use this exact model, or do you have something else?
This is the exact one. You can't use the white one. You can't use the little hand ones, the different things, because it will draw too much on your motor. And so the black one or the big wide ones, if you have the tubing that can just go into this, that's fine.
That's what we got at the house.
And
Yeah.
Food Saver now has a 4800 series that has both. It has this part that pulls out, which is very workable with the lids.
And I hear you can also shave with this too, with a certain adapter. Is that true?
It just, in emergency situations, it will suck all your blood out and things. It's very powerful.
How much is that,
It's
by
good.
the way?
Usually, if you can find it on Amazon, just put in Food Saver, Meal Saver. Make sure it's the black version. They usually run about $32 if you've got the
Cheap.
Prime shipping.
Totally
then
cheap.
the lids run about $7 or $9.
So for 50 bucks, you can take all the
You're
air out
set.
of these jars.
You're ready to go.
Okay.
So it's a great way. So that's if you're using it in the jars. The other way is to use an oxygen absorber.
Mm-hmm.
Even you can see the oxygen absorber is in here, but like we said, it can take up to 24 hours. So often I will still put, if there's real meat included in a meal, or they're little baggies with separate things, to make sure, I will put the oxygen absorber in and then just quickly seal it with this, just to make sure. Real meat is expensive, and we want to make sure. But,
Hold on, real quick. When you say you're going to seal with an oxygen absorber, can't speak. What do? You throw it in there. You make sure your seal is clean. There's no particulates there. Are you weighting it down, putting something on top of the lid, or you just place the lid on there and walk away and then come back later?
That's the theory. With an oxygen absorber, you should be
You're
able
not putting
to
the
just put it
retention
in.
ring on.
You can to give it, but again, a false seal. So we want to be careful with that.
Okay.
So that's why I like the Food Saver, that I can still put it in there and get a fast seal. There are some people that have a little bit of leeriness about a Food Saver. I have a little bit of leeriness about an oxygen absorber. So if you're wondering about both, now.
Let me back up real quick. This is a good point for this. Guys and gals watching this video will go, that don't know anything about canning. They don't know anything about what we're talking about. We're taking the air out so this stores longer.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing. And it's just a matter of how
And
to do
sealing
it.
the
Either
lid.
a full Food Saver or an O2 absorber and sealing it. That's what we're after longevity and storage with this discussion. Okay, just so people are clear on that.
Right.
Okay.
So the oxygen absorber definitely can absorb all of the air in there. That's its strong point. The soft point I have with a soft point, not a negative.
Yeah.
But a soft point is it doesn't always create the seal.
Okay.
So the
They have been known to
oxygen
fail.
absorber or the Food Saver does. Okay. Because we live in earthquake country here and in different parts of the country, you
In
never
Nevada.
know. We want to make sure glass is great. It is not air permeable. That is a great thing about it. But it's also breakable. And if I've put all of
And
my
heavy.
money and heavy, and if I put all of my money into resealing, whether meals in the jar, individual, whatever it is I'm doing, and then I have an earthquake and it's all on the floor, I don't want to eat the glass shreds along with whatever it is I'm making. So we have a couple of other options. Peat containers are marvelous. This is a chicken noodle soup. I can't use the Food Saver with that. So I can use the oxygen absorber, but you have to make sure you have the metal lid that has the gasket on the inside. That will create your seal. So I have all of my seasonings in the bottom. I have my vegetables, my noodles, my chicken meat. You can see my chunks of chicken. And then I have a baggie in the top that can make it either a creamy chicken noodle soup or I can just leave it plain. So this is a great, and I can make it in the different sizes. We've
And
talked
we'll
about
talk
that.
about that in separate videos,
Yep.
different courses.
So it has to have the metal gasket lid.
Okay.
Then you'll get that seal. That's great, but it lets light in. All of these let light in. So for long-term storage, you can have your color break down, a lot of other things. So the last option that I really like is the Mylar bags. And it used to be you only got your pre-made meals in that, but now we have the Ziploc top. So it has a zip in here. The great thing about the option with this is I can store, so in here I have Mexican style rice and chicken. So I can either, if I'm camping, I can get my water boiling in a pot, I can pour this in, stir it, and I have my instructions. I just write it with a Sharpie on the outside. So just take out the oxygen packet that's in there, add 1.5 cups of boiling water to a pan, pour this in, stir it for about 10 to 12 minutes, let it stand, and I have it ready. The great option about a Mylar bag is, in a severe situation, or if you don't want to take a lot of things, I can take that 1.5 cups of boiling water, pour it straight into here, take a long spork, whatever I need on that, stir it up, reseal it, let it sit in here for the 10 to 12 minutes, eat it straight out of the bag. I can fold up the bag, so very little waste.
And
everything
it's
else.
lightweight, it's tough. You could drop it on the floor all day long. It's not going to
Exactly.
purge on you. How about disadvantages of the Mylar in longevity?
Okay, so in utilizing, I can use this over and over and again. I can put this in my dishwasher, wash it in the sink. I can use this one again. I can't put this in a dishwasher, but I can wash this out, use it again and again. Mylar bags, if I pour this into that pot of water, I can reuse this once more. Mylar says that we can use that twice, but it starts to dimple and you can
Pinholes.
lose your integrity of it. If I pour the water into here, I can't use it again.
Right.
So for longevity, this keeps the best light out. So that's one good thing. I love the Ziploc bags, the lightweight, the different things. The only part is it's not reusable as many times as these others. Other than that, this is a great capability of lightweight, all of the other things. If I'm making my pretty, I call them my sand art meals.
Right, we
And
talked
so
about that last year.
How pretty they are. So people can't always see exactly what I have in here.
They'll look at that and they'll go, not interested.
If
They'll
you
look
need
at this and go, hey,
If you need to
we
print
have
off
lunch.
a picture and see, you can do that.
Right.
Again, I just write the instructions. You could print them off and tape it onto the front if you want. It's up to you.
These are almost more size efficient for your food storage.
Exactly.
Because you could do the portion sizes you wanted, and you could just line them up in the space you have available. You could
Exactly.
put them in Rubbermaid containers,
You'd
in
have to
boxes.
put it in a container because if you have any kind
Yeah.
of problem with rodents or anything else, they're attracted to the light. They'll come and
Start
eat
gnawing on
right
it.
through it.
Interesting.
Can't really on these. So advantages.
So not as rodent proof. That's another
You'd want to keep it like you
Data
said,
point.
in either the Rubbermaid bags or the 5-gallon buckets. You could put a whole bunch in there of different ones that then you could pick up the whole bag and just leave.
What a cool Christmas gift that would be.
Wouldn't that be?
That you just make Mexican style rice and chicken and you do a 5-gallon bucket for whoever.
Exactly.
And inside you have how many meals? 12, 20 meals? That's a gift. That's awesome.
do
And they can go
some
anywhere with
breakfast,
that.
yep.
They're all self-contained. You add boiling water. Awesome.
Well, that's the whole idea of the pre-made ones that you get, but they are so high in sodium, so high in sulfate as a preservative, some of the other things. I can do it in this, tweak it to my family's taste, and then I could put some breakfast, some lunches, some dinners, all in that 5-gallon bucket, seal it up, and grab that as we're ready to go.
Speaking of which, off camera, you mentioned the pre-made meals from other vendors, manufacturers, and you said, hey, to live off these for an extended period of time, not recommended.
Right.
These don't, since they're made from raw ingredients without the additives, that's healthier for you, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
And
Not
you
as
could
high.
live off of that?
Right, you could for a much longer period of time.
Okay.
Okay, your body would transition easier with that. And for things like the freeze-dried grapes that we have, you could make little dessert components that go with that. Put them in here, have it all either tied together, whatever you want to do, however you organize, however anal you are compared
Yeah.
to how anal I am. So, anyway, great
If you could see her
utilization.
food storage, you would be blown away. But it is top secret from what I hear. Top secret. How about these? As far as letting oxygen in, I look at the peat containers and I sometimes wonder how permeable or impermeable they are.
If it is a peat container.
With a
peat
rubber
quality,
gasket on the top.
With
Uh-huh.
a metal lid. Metal into the
Not
peat.
plastic lid.
A lot of times they will come with the plastic. That's great for storage of things that you're wanting to keep safe. But if you're trying long-term storage, it needs to be that metal lid with a gasket. You usually have to buy them separate. These come in all different shapes and sizes. I have some that they're round, they look like this. At Honeyville, we just sell the square, but you can get the other options. We did it with oatmeal and different things as
Right.
a food storage item for neighbors for gifts last year. Had a great time with that.
How about longevity though? Same as a glass jar?
Same.
So I seal this, I seal that, and they're both great seals. I
Right.
have no air in them.
Right.
They'll store the same amount of time.
All three of these have pretty much the same amount of lifespan on them because of their air quality. Putting them in other containers, obviously we talked about at the beginning what it would break down. To
Right.
leave it in here with a plastic lid on this can is air permeable now. That has become air permeable.
So we're looking at 24 hours. Say, hey man, I'm distracted. I go and I leave. 24 hours, all this meat is bad. You said you put it in the fridge, you'll get a little bit, a
Couple
month.
weeks.
A month out of it. But after that, I like what you said at the outset. You open the big number 10 can, divide it, and just air seal it into jars because this isn't really a survival system you're working on. It's a production system. So you're
Exactly.
producing meals and you're just putting it aside until you can get time to do it. So this is how you do it.
My question is on this.
Mrs.
then,
Nutnfancy has
can
a
you-
question. What?
I can keep using this lid like how many times?
Over and over.
Over and over
Yep.
and over? Okay.
They're a great thing to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I buy my can of meat, 25-year shelf life. I open it, 24 hours on my counter, a month in my fridge, 3 to 6 months in my freezer, depending how I store it. I don't need electricity. I can put it back in here. Now I'm at 24 and a half years.
I only lost 6 months out of the process.
Yep.
Assuming, like you said, dry day, you get right to it, you seal it.
Yep.
Awesome.
So if I'm doing meals in the jar, that's great. Something might happen, but if I reseal these, I have that utilization of what I have. So extending anything that you have, whether it's liquid, things that you put in your fridge, all the kinds of things that you want to do with that. Strawberries, it increases your time lapse and everything else. To store them in,
Yep.
air is your enemy. So if we can just utilize any of these to be able to do that.
My take on this, from what I know now, and my knowledge is very imperfect, is if I'm doing a group meal, I really like these. They're lightweight, they're tough. You can drop them, they won't break and shatter like you talked about.
Right.
This is a great group meal. If I'm doing individual meals, or maybe 2-person meals, I'd go Mylar.
Up to 4.
Up to 4 you
Up to
could.
probably 4 to 6, although this is our quiche that we've talked about. So here it is in the glass
We're
jar.
going to show you this, by the way, so stay tuned to TNP. You'll see
Okay,
it
so
coming.
here's my quiche, but here
Yeah.
it is in the, so you compare the difference of weight. The only real difference is I can't see what's in here. I
Yeah.
can still, because if I'm gonna pour it out, I'm gonna pour it out. It's gonna be there. So
Right.
there's our utilization of that.
Favorites from Lisa B. Which is your favorite system in your personal food storage?
I have
storage
learned
containing.
over time to never put all of my eggs in one basket. If I put it all in glass, that's when we're going to have the earthquake. If I'm going to put the only problem with this would be if there's a fire. So if my house
And
burned down.
freaking rats.
Yeah. But for utilization of other things. So
Okay.
I have some in each. I have some in each.
So you're
if I want
spreading
to
it
grab,
out.
exactly.
Kind of like your investment plan in life.
Exactly.
Don't
you
put it
never
all
put
in one
everything
basket.
in one kind of mutual fund. I've got, a
Good call.
diversified fund here.
Good
Is that
call.
good?
Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay.
All right, so we went over the glass containers, the Mylar, the peat. This is the foundation of other things we're going to talk about. This is how to seal and save your food over a long period of time. Getting rid of the oxygen is critical. We talked about a couple tools and methods to do it. O2 absorber and then the food saver. Lisa B. Honeyville Foods. Thanks, dude.
Thanks for
I mean,
coming.
Dudette.
I'm a dudette.
Yeah.